welcome to the Lawndale Guitar Show, the show that's all about guitars and the people that play them. Our special guest for this episode is Mr. Jim Knight. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Pleasure.
And for this special show, you have a collection here of some things that many people may not even recognize. Some historic stringed instruments, which are either precursors or related to the guitar, including a vintage guitar that we'll get to a little bit later. But you also have some percussion instruments that you're going to explain to us the relationship to some of these instruments, right?
That's right. So what I thought it might be interesting for you is there's a plethora of beautiful music all across the world that has different expressions. And so part of that is the rhythmic patterns that go back of it, and then the rest of it would be the string instruments and the orchestras that play together. So I thought I'd just kind of show you some of the different rhythms and how they're different, and how some of the music has influenced even American music, whether it's
made its way in
jazz or rock or something.
Right. World music, especially today, is always evolving and taking in new things. But the contrast is the time signature, right? That's the main. If you were to count out American music versus this, how would you describe it?
Well, American music is pretty much like a 4/4 or something, but there's different rhythms they have in different countries. There's this typical 2/4 you'll find in Arabic music. And then there would be, there's a 3 like a waltz type music, and then a 4 would be kind of like this. And I'm just going to wait a few minutes to just the sound.
Okay, but to interject real quick, what is the instrument that you're?
This is called a doumbek. It's an Arabic instrument, and normally they would have a clay body here, and they'd have a fish skin tied across here. But this is one that's been modeled by somebody that is rugged, and the problem with fish skins is when they get moisture, they get loose.
So this is a modern version of an ancient instrument.
That's right. Okay. Exactly right. Okay. So a typical 4/4 rhythm would go something like this. Okay. 4. But now there's a Bulgarian rhythm. It's a 5/4. It's a 1 2 3 1 2. So it's 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. Da 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 da. Right. Recognize that tune?
Dave Brubeck.
Dave Brubeck. Take 5. He traveled through Eurasia, was influenced by all these different rhythms, and came back and composed a song based upon a 5/4 rhythm that he heard when he traveled.
Kind of like what other even pop artists, Paul Simon or Peter Gabriel did. They incorporated other countries' rhythms into their contemporary music.
But there's not just the time signature, is the emphasis on the rhythm. When you get into a 6/8, there's a Persian style, and then there's an Iraqi style, and I'll show you the Persian. They almost count it as a 10, and it kind of goes like this. It's kind of a lopsided 6, but the Iraqi version is very straightforward. It kind of goes like this. So part of the rhythms it depends on how they emphasize the signature too. So it gives a whole different flavor to it.
And we'll get to which instrument incorporates into some of those. But I also see you have another vintage percussion instrument there as well.
Yes. Well, there's a couple of, this is a bodhrán. This is from Ireland. And when the Irish, there's a part of France called French Brittany. And when the Bretons came, they came to Quebec. And there's a style of music that's from French Canada called French Canadian music. And they might use a bodhrán like this, and it's basically played with a stick. Played like that. And they play it with guitars and accordions. And the Acadians that lived in French Canada,
first settlers,
settled down to Louisiana.
Came the
Cajun music. And in the Cajun music, they wouldn't use a bodhrán. For the Cajun music, they would take farm instruments This is a tooth of a farm instrument. And you'll listen with a traditional Cajun music and you'll find this kind of rhythm going. Find that kind of sound.
Yeah, I'm guessing, but Zydeco perhaps? Or?
Well, a Zydeco is Cajun music with a black influence.
Okay, with the washboards and
Washboards, and it's a little bit, I don't know what you say, raunchier, a little bit edgier. And if you listen to Creedence Clearwater, that's where they get their influence, is Cajun or Zydeco.
Very good, very good, very interesting. Well, I think of the one you said Irish, I think of like Riverdance. Was this something you would
Yeah, Riverdance would have something like a bodhrán like that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we are the guitar show, so let's get
back
to
to string instruments. Okay.
Right. And take your choice here.
Well, okay, this is a Turkish saz, and this be a whole orchestra of musicians that play these together. And one of the aspects of Middle Eastern music is they have a lot of quarter tones. These are tones that are in between our half step of Western music. Mm-hmm. And if you do a circle of fifths mathematically, you'll end up with the quarter tones. But what the Aeolians did way back when to form Western music, they rounded them off and they kind of smoothed them out a little bit. But so this has this and the oud both have some quarter tones that you normally not hear in Western music. So, and the other thing they quite often do is a drone. So there's a melodic string and then a drone string that goes along with it. So right, yeah, it kind of drones along with it. So this is what a saz would kind of sound like. So that would be a saz from Turkey.
I notice at the top you have how many tuning keys? It's a total of 7 tuning keys?
Yeah, 7. Mm-hmm. So you got 3 on top that are the melody string, and then you've got a pair of 2s down below.
And also the fret spacing. Now the frets wrap around the back of the neck on this instrument.
Yeah, well, what they used to use was catgut, but this is fishing line that they wrap tightly around here, and you can move these frets. So in Arabic music, they have something called maqam, which are scales, and there's different maqams. So different maqams have different quarter notes or half E flats or different notes that they have, and so you can move these frets around to accommodate different maqams.
Really? So they're not just stationary all the time?
No, there's a basic setup that can achieve most of them, but there's some rare maqams that you have a tone that you need to kind of modify on.
And unlike a guitar where the spacing goes incrementally shorter as you go towards the body, this is sort of scattered in a pattern.
Well, they're scattered pattern because you're getting the quarter tones. So in other words, here's a... So it sounds sour to us, but when you put it together in a scale and a maqam, those are important notes to be in that particular scale. Mm-hmm. But they're microtones beyond our half step of our system.
Something else I noticed as you turn it in the light, like on a guitar, there's dot inlays for positioning. It looks like there are some marks there, or
those are the ones I put on to make sure I knew what I was doing playing with the professional musicians. So they're not usually like that.
Did a little bit of modification to get there. I see.
Yeah,
that's okay.
So the other Arabic instrument is the oud, and this is the granddaddy to the lutes, the medieval lute.
Yes.
This is thousands of years old.
Bent back headstock up there.
Yeah, and so it's similar to a guitar in that you've got your bridge and it's connected to the reverberating space here, and the tuning pegs go back this way, and again you'll double up the strings, so it's like a 12-string.
Like a 12-string guitar.
Yeah, right.
I also noticed there's some decorative components in the sound
Yes,
holes.
they have decorative things to it. This was actually made from wood that's called benge. It's in Africa, and it's a really, really hard wood. So one of the problems with a lot of the ouds is they tend to kind of collapse in because they're so thin. because they're trying to get a lot
Now, I
of
didn't
sound.
ask on the age. What's the age of the instruments that we've seen so far?
This one's probably in the 1970s. I got it when I was traveling with a film company in Istanbul. And this one I had custom made by a Turkish guy back in the 80s.
Okay.
I have an oud at home. It's from the 1920s. You know, an older,
more
oud,
fragile.
yeah, but it's a little bit more fragile.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'll just show you a little bit about the oud and the maqam, I will play a piece and see if you recognize it from modern rock music. The hectic came from Arabic music.
We'll try a guess.
Okay, I won't start off with that. I'll just show you a little bit about the maqam. That's Hijaz. Now Saba has a tonic that's in a microtone, so. So you'll find these microtones in the maqam. And that one, Saba actually has a tonic on a microtone. So let me play a piece in Hijaz that you might recognize in a
might
modern
not.
rock and roll piece.
It's a case of name that tune. It sounds familiar, like
sounds
something
familiar.
the Beatles or the Stones put in.
No,
or something.
actually, it's
Mammoth?
a tune called Miserlou.
Oh yes,
Dick Dale
yes,
and
Dick
the
Dale,
Eltones.
yes.
He was Lebanese.
That's right.
And it's literally, the tune is called
Miserlou.
Miserlou in the Middle East, and that's a tune that he just took and just transposed straight
It was
to
sort
the
of
guitar.
like this.
That's correct. And
Yeah.
that's a Middle Eastern
I'm thinking the
tune.
bass run is the beginning. Before
Yeah,
it goes-
right. Yeah, that's Hijaz.
Same scale.
That's the Hijaz
Wow.
scale. Anyway, I thought it'd be interesting to show you that
The roots.
the roots, and he was Lebanese, and he's heard this tune. He said, "What the heck? Let's make that into
Sure,
something."
sure. You know, I'd read that before, that he took it from an ethnic origin to create the song.
And it's literally called Miserlou in
Maybe it was the
Middle
double strings that they're throwing me off.
East. Anyway,
That's great.
So this has this is the main instrument for most of the classical Arabic
Okay.
orchestras.
Now we see on top of our Marshall cabinet here, for viewers, they would probably presume, like I first presumed, that's a violin there.
Get this to sit there.
But it's not.
This is a viola. Originally, it was a viola. This is called a contra. This is played in traditional folk, Hungarian, and Transylvanian music. And the
Eastern Europe, pretty much.
Yeah, Eastern Europe, but this specifically Hungarian. This is unique to Hungarian. Some in Romania, but there's Hungarian villages that are in Romania. During World War II, there's a split, and some of the Hungarians got split off. And there's different villages that have different types of music, different rhythms and different melodies. But basically, the orchestra is made up of 3 gypsies that live usually outside the village, and they come in and play. And it's a primash, which is a lead violinist, a contra player like this, and a bass player. And the bass just has 3 strings,
Just like this
just like this
instrument,
does,
you see 3
and it's
strings
played
on it.
very aggressively with a very short stroke. I've given you some samples, and if you have chance, you can share that with some of the listeners. But so it's played vertically like this, and it's basically a rhythmic instrument that's played along with the violinist and the bass player.
Just like a violinist bow, essentially.
Right. It's all good. kinds of rhythms they play in this.
So it's played in chordal fashion instead of single strings.
Right. It's a chord fiddle. It fills in the background chords for the orchestra, but there's all kinds of rhythms to it. This is what they call duo, which means you're playing along with the bass, and then there's what they call estam. When the dance gets faster, there's estam is counterpoint. So chup, 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 chup. That's what this would be playing against the bass. And there's things called Tanzhaus, where the people get together and they dance, and the musicians would show up and play, and they have to develop a certain style of playing. This has been shaved off on the insides to make it louder. The bass player has done the same thing with the bass, and the pre-mosh plays double strings, and so they have to play really loud because it's played acoustically. There's no amplifiers, and they got a whole big room they're playing with people talking and dancing and so on.
Now, did you collect this like the others in some of your travels?
Yes, I traveled to Hungary and I studied the traditional Hungarian music in Hungary, and actually played Tanzhauses with a group called Ustalus. I gave you a sample of that you can play if you want. And worked and studied with Hungarians over there and also went to the village of Szék in Romania and played with some of the gypsies there, some of the villages.
Wonderful. A vintage instrument that you have here?
This one I got from my friends from Ustalus back in the early 70s. But I don't know how long he had it.
Okay.
And it's interesting also the bow. Most classical bows have a frog key, you can tighten them, and they don't have that. So what they've done, they've notched out the back and they just pull it back to tighten it up.
You know, if you didn't know better, you would think that's horsehair.
It is horsehair.
Ah.
Well, most bows are horsehair.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is a black horsehair. And this is custom made. This is made by Puma, who worked with Ustalus too.
So you have to run to a stables if you're starting.
Oh, well, they've got horses. I mean, if their transportation is mostly horses, so they got plenty of horsehair.
I'm joking out here, of course, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now, we have another instrument here.
Yep, this is the vihuela. This is the traditional Mexican music from Jalisco, which is different than the norteña. Norteña, there were some Germans that settled in the northern part of Mexico, and they brought in the accordion, and so the music from there has a different flavor to it with accordion, and this is from more down the Yucatan, central Jalisco area. So you'll have an orchestra of violinists, a vihuela, and a guitarrón, which the guitarrón is shaped the same way, only it's larger.
Well, to the uninformed, they may think this is ukulele based on its small size.
It's a small size.
However, you see 6 tuning keys, but I count, I believe, 5 strings.
Yeah, they didn't.
So typically you omit one of the keys?
That's typically what they do, right? Because it's actually the smallest. And
the
same
other
kind of thing,
difference-
they've used fishing wire to make the
Yes, I was just
frets
going to say, that's interesting because the frets only go up partially on the neck, about halfway.
All you're playing is some basic chords, but again, it's the driving rhythm that this provides with a guitarrón that provides for the music. So I can just give you a little sample of what it might sound like.
Imagine the dancers, right, with the rhythm.
Yeah.
That's great. This is a wonderful collection of stringed instruments, and all in their own way, of course, related to guitar. There's so many others even beyond this, as we know, the bakalaikas.
Oh yeah, this is just
a
sample. There's an instrument called a tar, and there's Comanche, and it's just, when you go across, you study music across the globe, it's just amazing, the sounds and the rhythms and the feeling you get from it. Yeah.
Now, do you still collect to this day? You're still out there looking for something?
I'm not looking for instruments anymore. I've got lots.
Yeah.
I didn't bring all of my instruments today, so I'm fine with what
Yeah.
I got. I don't play the music as much anymore. I'm getting pretty busy being mayor of Rancho Palos Verdes, so it's kind of it gets. Yeah, I don't have much time, but I want to get back into it.
Yeah. Now, of course, as we said, it's the guitar show, and you did bring a guitar. Yeah. And let's take a look at that.
It's an ES 347. We were just talking about, you got a 335, right?
Right.
Which pretty much is the
very
same.
Similar, very similar.
It's I it could be the adjustable bridges are different, and some of the pickups might be different, but I think it's pretty much like a
There's
335.
different paint color on mine. That's the only thing I noticed.
Yeah.
Oh, the inlays might be a different
Yeah.
shape. But what was the year you're guessing on this instrument?
I don't know. You asked me about the serial number, which I have in here, and I haven't really looked that up, but I know the 347s were probably in the late 60s, 70s, into the 80s.
So it's considered vintage in its own way.
Probably, yeah.
Mid-vintage.
I'm not sure exactly this one. I'll have to look it up.
And beautiful, it looks like gold-plated almost on your tuning keys and the pegs. Wow, that's a pretty instrument. You want to give a sound off that thing? Give it a little go. We could try and do a little improv jam.
Okay.
We were guessing on something in C, maybe.
Okay.
Take it away.
Take it away.
All right, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you play this at home when you get a chance to do it?
Rarely. I don't have much of a chance. But I did play this. I've worked with musical groups that travel across the country, across the globe, actually. And I've actually used this for some of the swing pieces that we use, too. Sometimes acoustic guitar and sometimes electric guitar. So we play a lot of swing stuff.
And what were some of the groups and people you played with over the years?
Well, I actually started off, I was doing a film around the world and got into these exotic countries, and I was just enamored with the music and the rhythms and so on. So I brought this Turkey Saws home with me from that trip, and I joined up with a belly dancing group that's out in the valley here. Ended up learning the music, playing at nightclubs, had my own belly dancing group, and we played around it was kind of a hot thing during the 70s and early 80s. And learned all the Middle Eastern music, and I was giving a demonstration at UCLA, the ethnomusicology department, and one of the guys came up to me and said, "How would you like to join the Amman International Folk Ensemble?" I said, "What's that?" I don't know. He said, "We're leaving on tour in 2 weeks."
Oh, gotta learn quick.
I said, "Okay, fine." You know, I was young, I was single. I said, "What the heck?" So I joined up with the Amman International Folk Ensemble, which we toured all across the U.S. We opened up the Epcot Park down in Florida. We were the main feature down there musically, because we had all the international music and dance. And we went to the toured to the Middle East with the Information Service, and then came back. And I've also worked with some Hungarian groups, Karpatok, which is up here in Los Angeles. Play traditional Hungarian music, and I've toured a lot. I've been around a lot of different, just about every venue there is across the nation here.
Now, when you were younger, did you ever were a rocker back when you were very young?
I first started off with acoustic guitar and Peter, Paul, and Mary and the Kingston Trio, and just learning the folk stuff first, and then got into the surf music because I lived out by the coast there, and that was popular. So in junior high school, I had a rock band and played for parties and stuff. High school, got normal, just a regular old rock and roll band and into college, and so it's kind of a, started off from that route. You know.
Yeah. Now, Jim, you brought in some pre-recorded music that reflects some of these instruments for us to share with the audience, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I got some recordings of orchestras I work with, and it'll give you a context of how you would find these instruments in that particular orchestra.
That's great. Let's give it a listen.
Okay.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you coming in and showing us all your instruments. It's been great to learn some things about these. I'm sure some of the viewers are as unfamiliar as I am with most of this. So it's a real treat. And so why don't we just end things? We'll just take it out on a little prolonged jam.
Okay.
Want to take a different key or a different tempo or something?
Whatever. You
Want me to lay down something for you?
Okay.
How about A?
Chuck Berry.
Okay. 1,